Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. As you know, my name is Laura Reines, and I feel especially privileged to have a guest in my studio today. Typically, as you know, the topics that I cover have more to do with kind of personal growth and development and being the best person that you can be. But today, I am really lucky to be able to go off the beaten path a little bit and talk with you all about a concept maybe not all of you are familiar with, and that is environmentally friendly or green building. No, the buildings are not actually green. We'll find out what really is entailed with all of that in just a minute. Today, as I said, my husband is joining me, and he has worked in the industry for a number of years. So I will have him, first of all, start out by introducing himself and telling you all a little bit about how he got into the industry, how long he's been in the industry, and then we'll move into our topic of environmentally safe or green building. And again, keep in mind that the focus of our course and our time together has been improving the life for children, for families, and for communities. So as you're listening to him today, kind of just try and keep in mind the ways that the things that he is saying will indeed better the quality of life for those groups of people. So without further delay, I am excited to turn the microphone over to my husband. Ooh, they love you. They love you. All right. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us today. The first thing, as I mentioned, that I would like to have you do is just state your name again, and then just kind of recap your years of experience in the industry and maybe tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry. So we'll start off and at that point, and then just take it from there. Welcome.
Thanks, Laura. As Laura said, this is Rob Reines. I'm lucky to be married to her, so it's a good opportunity to share a little bit more about what's out there in terms of the green building and sustainable construction here. I got into the trades as a bricklayer and a bricklayer back in the early 80s, and worked my way into the industry into the 90s, became a union bricklayer and so on and so forth, and had a lot of opportunities come my way in terms of elevating my role in the industry beyond masonry in terms of project management. So I had an opportunity in the late 90s to start running projects and bidding projects and owner meetings and specification writing and so on and so forth. So I got to see the other side, on the management side, outside of operation or actual construction, into the operations side here. So I'm about 26 years into the industry, 17 years in a management role. So in my current industry, where I'm at right now with Mortensen Construction, is in commercial department, Minneapolis Group commercial side. So that's where we're at right now.
And what is the big news with Mortensen and Minnesota these days?
On Friday of last week, we received news from the commissioning authority and the Vikings organization that Mortensen Construction was selected to build the People's Stadium.
Is that great, or is that great? Can I get some cheering? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Go Vikes. So as we move into the interview here, how long, Rob, would you say that green building has been in existence? So I imagine maybe there was once a time when we didn't really think as much about the environment and kind of the effects that our methods might have on the environment. But to your knowledge, when did things kind of turn, and when did that kind of become something that was more in the forefront of builders and constructors' minds?
That's a good question. We started seeing the architects and the engineers, not so much to the owners at this point, but actually in the early to mid 70s, there started to be a feel of environmental friendly right at that time. It was a tough sell to the government. It was a tough sell to the people. They weren't buying it. It was about production. It was about industry. It was about movement. It was about mass, really an urban sprawl in the 70s and late 70s. Even though we were going through a very tough fiscal crisis in the Carter years, we were building out, not up. And so that was again in the early 70s to mid 70s. Now, LEED in the terms of the green building and the sustainable effect really came together at a head in the early to mid 1990s. Actually, 1994 to 96 is when they formed the Green Building Institute and it really started to take a hold. The pressures that the industry was feeling in terms of the load on the environment, the health of the workers, the use and recycling of materials, and so on and so forth, and no longer building out but up. How do we do that? How do we refurbish the boom of the the developments of the 70s, and so on and so forth, to utilize those structures instead of tearing them down or building out? So really a big push in the the mid 90s on the green side.
What have you seen in terms of how that whole mentality of green or friendly building, what have you seen in terms of how that's endured? Do you think it's just as pressing and just as much on people's mind as it was, or do you see that declining? Where do you think it's at right now?
The first effect to the people, or the John Q. public, was the tagline, green building, let's jump on the bandwagon. And that's actually how I was introduced to it in my company. It was really a marketing ploy. In the mid 2000s, the owners and developers started catching on to the accreditation, or getting credentials for your building with the green mindset and the green elements. So on a marketing basis, our upper management, senior level management said, look, we need to go after and get you guys, the management staff, trained and certified, or accredited, I should say, in the green industry. So that was my first introduction to it. Now, going back to the green side of things, we've always built we're not introducing any new elements. We're just packaging them differently. We're presenting them differently, and we're having them working with different systems in a building structure together to complement one another, and less antagonistic on the environment and really the emissions and so on and so forth. But more so, what is green building and sustainable building? There's many definitions to it, but really it refers to a structure and using a process that is environmentally and safe and responsible and resource efficient throughout the building life cycle, and that so much includes the people and their health and their performance.
So, as you look at the different roles that you've had over the last few years in particular, in the whole realm of green building, what has been your role?
Stewardship. How do we convey, and really not selling a product or a system or a procedure, how do we get that across to the consumer? So it's been a key. It's been a key to understand the elements of it, the benefits, the value adds, and identify the non-value adds of the process too. So we're in it on ground floor with the owners. It's typically new to them. They're still coming off the mid 2000s in terms of what it means to have a stamp on your building as certified as silver, gold, or platinum ratings here. So it's our job to convey them clearly, developing and drawing and building a green building and what the value added is.
So you mentioned the owners, and maybe there are some that are listening today that aren't as familiar with construction lingo. Can you explain who you're referring to when you talk about, in the construction industry, the owners?
The owners are the proponents. It's their building. They've occupied the building.
Okay, hopefully that kind of makes things even clearer for folks. One of the fields in family consumer science is interior design. And I'm wondering if you could maybe speculate. I know you're not an interior designer, but you're very experienced within the realm of the industry of construction and building. Can you speculate as to why green building might be of interest, or why interior designers might want to pay attention to environmentally friendly building?
Oh, there's so many. We could do multiple sessions of this, but we have to know it in the construction industry because we do a lot of design build. We're working from a paper napkin with the owners and bringing their thoughts and their needs and their programming to fruition on a set of plans here. So it's very critical on the interior, especially the interior of the building, in terms of the type of products we're using, from bamboo floorings to mahogany doors, and skinning of these buildings or putting the veneer on those. But more so, it goes even deeper than the aesthetics and what the sight line or the visual is. It's about the chemicals being used to put these together, and having the laminates hold on to the countertops, and to the materials that form the countertops. That term is called off-gassing. It's all about, really, if you were to throw up one definition of green and sustainable building, it's really for the worker to create an environment that's inviting to them, that puts controls at their literally put controls at their hands, from lighting to heating and cooling, and to make their environment not only ergonomically sound and safe, but really to promote a health, clean air, and indoor air quality that ultimately will give long life to them in the workplace, will give them energy and more production, and really less claims from eye strain and so on and so forth. So that's a key component. And the design is not just paint and paper, as we call it, with floor color and wall color and the types of light fixtures here. It's all the elements working together in the design of it.
So really, if I'm tracking with you, what you've said is that it's very important, and owners, chances are, really want the building to be environmentally friendly. If you're looking at the longevity of your employees, keeping them healthy, keeping them safe on the job, you might have employees with sensitive systems, and so you're thinking about allergies and different reactions. Is that in fact true?
That's exactly correct.
Okay. So before I met you and eventually married you, I knew very little about green building. I was coming from a vantage point of just being your average consumer. So in your opinion, what things do you believe it's good for the average consumer to know or to understand about this whole concept of environmentally friendly building?
The environment and the person is key. There's so many areas you could go with this, Laura, in terms of what we're doing to mine different metals, to strip down forests, to replant forests, to bring that element inside to the building. It's difficult to identify what one should know about and understand about green building. The biggest effect from green building is the effect it has on you in terms of coming. You have that well-lit situation. You can dim the lights. Your air control is there. You can control your environment. And whether you know it or not, and typically it's not, your production is higher, the claims are lower, and this isn't all about insurance claims by any means here. It's also about the environment. So you just have that sense and feeling of a healthy workplace.
So really, the industry has just kind of kept pace with all the other professional industries that are in existence, when we're looking at the environment and what we can do to give back and to leave something even for the generations that will follow.
And really life cycle analysis, not only for the building, its components, the environment, the recycling and so on and so forth, but the life cycle and production and health of the employees is utmost important.
So just switching directions a little bit here. I know that you have several credentials that go along with environmentally friendly building and different certifications. So if you could maybe talk a little bit from your knowledge about what credentials are presently available, and then what's the process kind of like? What did you have to do in order to get credentialed? And I know there's probably a lot of different types of credentials. So if you just want to speak to your own experience, that's totally fine as well.
Sure, and you to get credentialed in the misnomer is that we don't get credentialed. We actually get accredited. We're LEED AP. LEED is an acronym for Leadership in Environmental Design, and environmental and experience design, and so on and so forth. So it's key that in order to understand the process, to go after certification of the building, there are exams that you need to take, and it's up through 2008. It was called a LEED. You were called a LEED AP, but because as the Green Building Certification Institute, which is a third-party organization that provides an independent oversight over the professional credentialing of these buildings and structures, and actually of parking lots and landscape and hardscape, they said, what are we going to do with this? Because now we're going into urban developments, we're going into schools, we're going into healthcare facilities, nursing homes included. So we need to have continuing education, actually. So they started to diversify and get deeper in the weeds, as we'd say, of specializing just outside of just a LEED accredited professional as one broad brush or broad stroke here, to get dialed into to buildings and urban development and schools and healthcare. So there's additional testing that has to take. It's a brutal test. It's a very difficult test. So on that note, moving forward in terms of 2008, they went off the testing exams by the GBCI for LEED AP to become your first pass is a green associate, and that's that ground level basis foundational exam accreditation that you'll get to move on to the specialty credentials.
That's really interesting. Like so many things, as you mentioned, the concept of continuing education. I mean, that right there says that this is something that the industry is really invested in, and it isn't as though you earn your credential at one point and then you're done. Things will probably continue to evolve and change for quite some time, I would imagine.
As is the industry, and really in terms of, you know, energy and water efficiencies and siting and structures in the right place in the right neighborhoods, tearing them down, reusing materials, indoor air quality enhancement, and really at the end of the day, when that building is turned over to the owner, this whole process is of green building and sustainability is actually training and commissioning the owner to understand the systems within the building. Again, on the life cycle analysis side, or the life cycle of the building. They need to know how to operate this building, because we can give them a beautiful building with the wonderful systems that don't give off excess chlorofluorocarbons or off-gassing. We've reused material from local pits and other demolished buildings and so on and so forth. But if we hand it over to the owner, give them the keys and not know how to run it, that building will do no good, if you will.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. Just the amount of knowledge that is out there and the amount that people ultimately end up being responsible for knowing. And the final question for today, as my students know, the theme of Family and Consumer Science is focusing on the individual, the family, and the community. And so each of the different branches within that profession really look at how can we improve life for each of those groups, that again being the individual, the family, and the community. So Rob, in your opinion, how does green building tie into those themes? Are there ways that you think green building can influence the individual, the family, and the communities in a positive way?
Indeed, and really, we all have parks and cities, and we all have buildings and community centers, and we all have transit systems. One of the keys for families and communities is connectivity to those things. So busing, less cars, less vehicles, biking, less vehicles, wandering paths and connections, even skylinks, if you will, from buildings to the parks or other buildings per se. So it's really an overall tie to connect communities within really a suburb, if you will, and families, giving them ergonomics, giving them the lighting, giving them the access, giving them the tools to get to those different facilities. So it's really an overall connectivity and a person's health, and it just breeds a connection with families and communities. It empowers people, and it's actually one thing I didn't say earlier is its lead is going into the non-commercial, the residential market as well. Okay. So there's strong keys there. It's a wonderful future, and I think it's going to continue to build steam, and we'll see people continue to embrace it's not now it's outside of a concept. Now it's reality. You can touch it and feel it and get a sense of it. There's enough of the years out there of green building and sustainability that people are utilizing these facilities. They're starting to see it. They're starting to talk about it, and they're seeing the numbers and the matrices out there are showing that it is beneficial to the community, to the environment, and really to the nation and world as a whole.
Yes, absolutely. And it seems like this whole concept of green building is if you think of it almost like a vine, that it's going to have really far-reaching effects. So not just the people when they go to work, but in their places of worship or their hospital, and now, as you just alluded to, even within their homes. So I think that this has been a very interesting discussion, and I'm thankful for the opportunity. Are there any thoughts in closing that you would like to share?
On the sustainability side of things, it's really designed, basically, or defined as meeting the needs of the present generations without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. That's a mouthful here, but it's about the environment, it's about the health, it's about forward thinking.
Wow, thank you very much. And for those of you who are listening, who are my students, if this has sparked an interest for you in some way and you'd like more information, please let me know, because I'm sure that I can talk with Rob and see if we can't get some questions answered for you. So, Rob, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for taking the time to do this. I am certain that those that listen will indeed benefit greatly. And now, to those of you who are listening, it's time to wrap it up for today. Thank you very much for your time, and until I see you or talk to you again, take care.